Next week will be our last with Genesis for a while. After that, we'll be moving into Advent, believe it or not, and our course will change a bit. This week we're telling more of Jacob's story. We often wonder how guys like Jacob make it in the Bible at all. And we doubly wonder how Jacob became one of our famous ancestors of faith. The refrain of Psalm 46 is, "The Lord of hosts is with us, the God of Jacob is our refuge." So if the Old Testament had a Mount Rushmore, Jacob would be one of the faces etched into the stone. He's one of our important ancestors. But Jacob's story is complicated. It's filled with deceit and the movement of God at the same time. His story is very real, and I think it's hopeful for us too. To understand today's story, we need to be reminded of why Jacob is so stressed out about meeting his brother Esau. Perhaps you have a little brother. Hopefully you don't have a little brother quite like Jacob. Esau and Jacob are twins, and Esau comes out of the womb first, Jacob second, but Jacob is holding on to his brother's heel as they exit the womb, giving us a sign that there's going to be some sibling rivalry here. Next, we see Jacob stealing Esau's birthright from him. He doesn't exactly steal it, but Esau doesn't necessarily give it to him either. Jacob's cooking up some stew one morning, and Esau's been out in the field for a few days, and he comes back in. He says, "I'm famished. Give me some of that stew." And Jacob says, "Give me your birthright first." Now, at our house, every once in a while, Sarah and I will need to step outside to do something, and then we'll come back towards the house, and we'll reach for the doorknob, and then we'll hear this click, and we'll see a face in the window. It's Simon, and he's laughing because he's just locked the door on us, and he's drunk with power. Jacob is feeling that sort of power, but what Jacob does is cold. It would be like Simon locking the door on us when it's 40 below outside, and then negotiating for a new train set. Jacob has the heart of a mafia boss, and Esau says, "What good's a birthright to me since I'm going to die in the next few minutes anyway if I don't get some food? Sure, you can have my birthright." And Jacob says, "Here's your stew." In the next scene, Jacob has help from Mommy. His father Isaac is old and blind and ready to die, and he asks Esau to go hunting and prepare a final meal for him, and then Isaac will give Esau the blessing. So if the birthright is the meat, the blessing is the potatoes. The two go together. Well, Esau goes off to hunt, but Mother Dearest, Rebekah, hears Isaac say this, and she goes to Jacob, and she says, "Quick, if you act now, you can have not only Esau's birthright, but Isaac's blessing too. So here's what you do. Go out and grab a couple of kids, a couple of goats, bring them to me. I'll prepare them. You can bring them to Isaac. He won't know the difference, and he'll offer you his blessing." Well, Jacob is a sharp guy. He's a trickster, after all, successful at it, so he has a few brain cells to rub together, and he says, "There's a problem here. You see, my brother is very hairy. He's got the big bushy beard, the big chest hair. He's got the back hair even. He's got really bushy arms. I myself have been blessed with boyish good looks," he says. "Isaac, if he grabs onto my arms, he's going to know it's not me." And his mother says, "Well, here's what we'll do. We'll wrap the skin of the goats around your arms, and if Isaac grabs onto your arms, he'll never know the difference." Now, I've met plenty of people who are pretty hairy, and I've shaken their hands and grabbed onto their arms, but never once have I thought to myself, if I close my eyes, I might have thought this was a goat. But Esau is apparently that hairy because the plan works. Jacob takes the food to Isaac. Isaac grabs on his arms. Oh, you have the voice of Jacob, but the arms of Esau, and then he offers the blessing to Jacob. Well, once Esau hears about this, he vows to kill his brother. Mother Dearest tells Jacob to run to her brother Laban's place, and Jacob runs. But on the way, God appears to Jacob in a dream and blesses him. Now, if we've ever been irritated because it seems like the nice guys finish last, well, you can just add this story in the Bible onto that list. Jacob is not a choir boy, and God blesses him anyway. Tells him he will inherit the land. Tells him that his ancestors will be numerous. Well, Jacob goes to be with his brother Laban and finds that Laban's kind of a trickster too. After 20 years, though, Jacob finally gets the best of him. And then God tells Jacob to go back to his homeland and his kindred, and God will be with him. And this means, of course, that Jacob needs to face Esau. And that's where our passage for today starts. So Jacob sends the messengers to Esau, and he says, tell Esau that I've been with Laban for 20 years, and I've been an alien in the land. I'm coming home, and I have livestock, I have flocks, I have slaves, I have many assets. I'm looking for favor in your sight. Please forgive me. And so the messengers go off, and they come running back, and they say, well, we didn't have a chance to offer our message because Esau's coming at you with 400 men, with an army. Doesn't look good. Jacob's afraid. Esau's still ticked off, and he's coming after him. So Jacob splits the company into many different parts so that Esau can't kill everybody at once. And then Jacob prays, Dear God, you told me to return to my people and to my homeland, and you promised to do good to me. Now I know I'm not perfect, wasn't a very good brother, and I started out with nothing, and now you've helped me to become rich and wealthy, etc., etc., etc. But please, please deliver me from Esau. You promised me, I'll surely do good for you. I'll make your offspring like the sand of the sea, but it doesn't look like this is going to happen when Esau's coming right at me. God, please. Amen. Well, Jacob's wrestling match with God starts here. Jacob is wondering, is God going to fulfill this promise or not? Is God going to do good for me or not? Did God really speak to me, or did I just make all that up? Well, at this point, Jacob, like any normal person, is more fearful of Esau than trusting in God. So Jacob, always a trickster, places all of his wealth out in front of him, that it might come at Esau in waves as these gifts, and that after receiving all of them, Esau might be a little bit more forgiving of Jacob. Well, that night, Jacob is restless. It's as if he doesn't feel safe to be in one place very long. And so they set up camp for the night. After getting camp set up, then he sends the camp off. He says, why don't you go across the river instead, sleep there. And then Jacob's by himself. And we're told a man comes and then starts wrestling with him. Up until this point in the story, we imagine that Jacob is wrestling with God in his mind. But now that wrestling becomes physical. It becomes literal in the story. Esau may be the hairy one, but Jacob apparently is a very good wrestler because they wrestle all night. The man gets upset